She stepped off the stagecoach bleeding. The cowboy's next move changed her life. The stagecoach lurched to a stop in a cloud of dust, its wheels groaning like they were relieved to rest at last. When the door swung open, no one expected her. Not the driver, not the few townsfolk lingering by the hitching rail, and certainly not the cowboy leaning against the saloon post with his hat pulled low. She stepped down slowly, one hand gripping the coach rail, the other pressed to her side where dark blood soaked through a torn gray dress. Her boots hit the ground, and for a moment she swayed, pale as winter ash. Most folks froze. Trouble had a way of bringing trouble with it, and in a frontier town, strangers bleeding were often followed by guns, grudges, or graves. The driver cleared his throat and looked away. Someone muttered a prayer. The cowboy lifted his head. His name was Luke Mercer, and he'd learned long ago that moments decided lives. He pushed off the post and crossed the dirt in 3 strides. "Ma'am," he said, steady and calm, as if he were asking the time. "You're hurt." She tried to answer, but the words tangled. Her knees buckled. Luke caught her before she fell, surprised by how light she was, surprised by the heat of her blood through his sleeve. He didn't ask questions then. He shrugged off his coat and pressed it to her wound. "Easy," he murmured, "I've got you." He carried her to the small room behind the livery where the town kept a cot for drunks and accidents. He sent a boy running for the doctor and another for clean water. When the coat came away, he saw the gash along her ribs, deep, angry, but not fatal if treated right. Luke worked like he'd done this before, hands sure, eyes focused, the world narrowing to the rise and fall of her breath. Her name, she said later, was Clara Hale. She'd been a schoolteacher once, east of the river, until her husband's debts caught up with them and the men who collected didn't care who they hurt. She ran when he didn't come home. She rode the stage with a lie and a little money, hoping to disappear into a place where no one knew her face. The doctor stitched and shook his head. "She'll live," he said. "If she rests." Luke offered his bunk at the ranch without thinking. He slept in the barn and cooked thin soup that night, listening to her breathe through the open window, counting the seconds like beads on a rosary. In the morning, he brought her coffee sweetened more than usual in a clean shirt that swallowed her frame. Days passed. Clara healed slowly, stubborn as sagebrush. She watched the land with a teacher's eyes, naming birds, asking about the stars. Luke found himself answering more than he meant to, telling stories he hadn't told since his mother died. He'd been alone a long time, content enough, or so he thought. Clara's laugh, soft at first, then freer, put a crack in that belief. Trouble came, as it always did. 2 men rode in from the east with hard smiles and harder eyes. They asked questions at the saloon, flashed a description that fit Clara too well. By dusk, Luke knew they were close. He didn't tell Clara everything. He told her enough. "They're looking," he said, honest and quiet. "You can run again. I'll saddle you the fastest horse." She looked at him, then at her hands, "Steady now." "I'm tired of running," she said. "And I won't bring ruin to your door." Luke thought of the stagecoach, of blood on dust, of the choice he'd made without knowing her name. He thought of all the times he'd walked away from fights that weren't his. He set his jaw. "You didn't," he said. "And you won't." When the men came at dawn, Luke met them by the corral. Words were exchanged, then steel. The fight was quick and ugly. Luke took a cut across the arm, one man took a broken pride and rode out. The other stayed behind in the dirt, alive, shamed, and gone by noon under the sheriff's watch. Afterward, Luke sat on the fence, breath shaking. Clara came to him, her steps careful but sure. She pressed a cloth to his arm, hands gentle. "You didn't have to," she said. "I know," he answered. "I wanted to." Weeks turned into months. Clara stayed. She taught the ranch hands to read by lantern light and planted a small garden that insisted on growing despite the wind. Luke watched her claim the place, watched the land accept her. One evening, as the sky burned orange, she stood beside him and said, "I don't want to disappear anymore." Luke smiled, a rare, unguarded thing. "Good," he said. "I'd hate to lose you." Years later, folks told the story differently. They said the cowboy saved a woman and found a wife. They said blood and dust turned into a life. Luke knew the truth was simpler and harder. A choice made in a moment, a hand reaching when others looked away, and the courage to stand when running would have been easier. Clara would say the same, that stepping off that stagecoach bleeding was the end of one life and the beginning of another, changed forever by what the cowboy did next.